This kid is so high level. I love how he just doesn't lay there in the guard. He's always active. He's always busy. He's always going for the finish. I can't wait to see what this kid looks like at 22. Get over here.
Raul Rosas Jr., welcome to the UFC.
While his peers are doing drugs, Raul Rosas Jr. is on a path to becoming the greatest UFC fighter of all time. Yet he faces some of the toughest criticism in the sport's history. Rosas Jr.'s parents initially emigrated to the US from Iztapalapa, a district of Mexico City. They settled in Clovis, New Mexico, where Raul was born. He was introduced to the sport by his father, Raul Rosas Sr., a former boxer who recognized his son's natural talent at a very young age. As a child, Raul was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called Pallister W syndrome, which causes distinct facial characteristics such as wide, flat nose, cleft lip and palate, wide spacing between the eyes, and speech problems. Despite these challenges, Raul quickly rose through the local ranks, becoming a household name in the local fighting scene. At just 13, he moved to Santa Rosa, California. In high school, he began wrestling and participated in pankration, an amateur sport similar to MMA. At the age of 14, he competed in the IMMAF World Championship in Rome, where he won the gold medal. After becoming the amateur world champion, he continued in the amateur leagues, amazing an immaculate record of 6 wins and 0 losses. At the age of 17 years, 1 month and 18 days, Raul Rosas Jr. started his professional MMA career, facing Mexican-born Eduardo Velasquez, who was 0-1 at that time and 7 years older than Raul. The fight ended quickly, with Rosas Jr. securing a rear naked choke in under a minute. The second fight came just 3 months later against Joel Peña, who was making his pro debut after a successful amateur career. This fight didn't last a minute, with Rosas Jr. winning via armbar. Raul was a rising significant hype train and didn't wait long before jumping into his third professional fight against Francisco Villanueva, who was considered Rosas' biggest test. Villanueva was 1-0, the first fighter Rosas faced with an active record. The fight lasted longer than usual, but those 2 minutes were nothing compared to other fighters. Rosas Jr. passed the test and added another victory to his record. He took 3 weeks to recover before his next fight. This pace was comparable to Khamzat Chimaev's level. Rosas Jr. fought under the Ultimate Warrior Challenge Mexico promotion. In every tournament, his next opponent was Jose Peñalosa, a KO machine from Mexico, and had 2 first-round KO wins. Rosas Jr. made it to the second round, but had no significant issues, submitting Peñalosa with a rear naked choke. At that point, Rosas Jr. gained recognition on social media and was often marked as a potential youngest UFC fighter. However, he still had 1 more fight left in the contract. The last opponent of his Mexican journey was Mr. Chaos, who paradoxically turned out to be the easiest opponent of all. Porto Carrero was no match for Rosas, who won by TKO in the first round. With an impressive record that included a gold medal and a 4-0 professional record, Rosas Jr. received a contract offer from Dana White's Contender Series. This brought some controversy, as many were concerned that Raul Rosas Jr. was just a young fighter on an unseen hype train. The main concern was that his opponents had a combined record of 3 wins and 3 losses. However, the WCC is the best platform to prove that a fighter has what it takes to succeed in the UFC. Therefore, Rosas signed the contract and was ready for the biggest fight of his life. So at the age of 17 years, 11 months and 12 days, just 10 months after the start of his professional career, he got the chance to fight for a spot in the UFC. His opponent, Mando Gutierrez, was a strength test of his abilities, with more wins and experience than all of Rosas Jr.'s previous opponents combined. Nevertheless, Raul started confidently with a spinning high kick. It was partly missed. Gutierrez tried to push him, yet Rosas showed great ground game. In those 4 seconds, Raul Rosas Jr. displayed his ability to dictate the pace in both stand-up and grappling. Gutierrez attempted a guillotine choke, but Raul beautifully passed guard, showcasing high-level BJJ. The first round stayed mostly on the ground, with Raul racking up points in his favor. A significant moment came when Raul landed solid elbows to the head. At one point, it even seemed like Rosas could finish the fight with Sulev's stretch. However, he didn't hold it properly and Gutierrez escaped. The first round was fast-paced and action-packed. All promise an exciting second round. Starting with flying knee, seamlessly transitioning into double leg takedown. That surely caught Dana's attention. The round followed a similar pattern. Gutierrez caught Raul in guillotine, but Raul slipped away. Raul took his opponent's back and attempted a submission, but when that didn't work out, he transitioned to ground and pound. He once again shifted his attack, moving back into a submission attempt, staying highly active every second of the round. However, he made his first mistake. Raul was positioned too high on Gutierrez's back, allowing him to slip off to the ground. Gutierrez gained a dominant position, yet Rosas easily transitioned from an inferior to a superior position, once again showcasing incredible BJJ skill. Just a reminder, he was still 17. Raul continued to demonstrate his strength, proving that despite his young age, he could wrestle with more seasoned fighters. Toward the end of the second round, Raul made another mistake by giving his back to Gutierrez, who, if he were a better BJJ artist, could have submitted him. Luckily, Raul managed to escape. Once again, he passed into a dominant position. All in all, the match almost repeated itself. Raul was incredibly hungry for the contract, so much that it led to a few mistakes, but his opponent wasn't able to capitalize on the ground. As a result, he won Dana White's heart and the UFC contract. Here is how White described
I love how he
his
just doesn't
feelings.
lay there in the guard. He's always active. He's always busy. He's always going for the finish. For a guy who doesn't have this type of experience yet and such a big stage at such a young age, I can't wait to see what this kid looks like at 22.
And here it comes. The date is the 10th of December 2022. Raul Rosas Jr., after a short but indescribably difficult path, finally achieved his dream, a UFC debut. Let's speak frankly, his opponent Jay Perrin was on his way out of the UFC. Perhaps because this was his last chance to save his UFC career, Perrin was extra motivated to outperform the young Rosas and prove that teenagers have no place in the UFC. Bettors seem to agree. Yet Raul, hungry as ever, took the center of the octagon. After a brief stand-up exchange, he shot for a takedown. He lifted Perrin into the air, showcasing that power was not going to be an issue. However, Perrin managed to stand up quickly, but Rosas impressed fans with his strength. Not just power, Rosas' wrestling skills were also evident as he soon grabbed Perrin's back. Once Rosas secured Perrin's back, it was game over. He won his UFC debut in the first round via submission, along with a performance of the night bonus of $50K. As the hype and bettors' favor grew, Raul's confidence seemed to rise twice as much.
There's levels to this, that he's nowhere near my level that way.
However, this upward trajectory was about to come to an end. His next opponent was fellow prospect Christian Rodriguez, who missed weight by just 1 pound. Yet the difference inside the octagon was much more significant. Rosas started proactively once again. He hoped to take Rodriguez down, following a similar pattern to his previous successful matches. But Rodriguez was prepared and denied the takedown. The fight continued on the feet. Still, Rosas showed his hand and shot for another takedown, but Rodriguez anticipated it perfectly. Rosas didn't learn from his mistakes and Rodriguez took his back. Plus, Rodriguez demonstrated was the more powerful fighter that day. By the end of the third round, the difference was so apparent, it looked like an older brother outmatching his younger sibling. In the end, the result was inevitable, a loss by unanimous decision. His ego shattered. The dream of becoming the youngest UFC champion now seemed farther away than ever, and his once immaculate record was broken. Rosas was forced to take the biggest break so far, to process thoughts and work with self-esteem that outgrew to ego. And frankly, he couldn't have done a better job. His next challenge came against bantamweight giant Terrence Mitchell, who was equally hungry for victory. The fight started right off the bat with Mitchell's high kick, which was quickly answered by Rosas' hooks. Mitchell threw a second and third high kick, but by the fourth attempt, Rosas had spotted the pattern and countered. After a clean shot to the chin, Mitchell backed down and slowed his pace. He even tried to clinch, but as we have seen in previous fights, wrestling is one of Rosas' strengths. Mitchell only wasted more energy. From that point on, Rosas dominated the stand-up, to the extent that he even knocked Mitchell down. On the ground, Rosas took full mount and unleashed a barrage of ground and pound strikes, resulting in a KO victory within the first minute. He not only earned the performance of the night bonus, but more importantly, regained his confidence. Rosas' next opponent was Ricky Turcios, an unpredictable fighter with a solid record of 12 wins and only 3 losses. Rosas was once again the favorite, and this time things went his way. Raul took the center, offering a high five to his opponent, but Turcios, showcasing a bit of cockiness, responded with a high kick. Rosas stayed calm, playing his game, and took Turcios to the ground, where he kept him pinned for a good 2 minutes, slowly accumulating points. Turcios managed to stand up, but it didn't last long. Rosas connected both hands behind Turcios' legs, lifted him and slammed him to the ground. He maintained control for another minute, until Rosas made the same mistake as he made against Gutierrez by staying too high on the back of his opponent, and he slipped off, giving Turcios a brief window. Almost like a repeat, Turcios attempted a rear naked choke, but Rosas' defense, especially his chin, was too strong. The first round was close, with Rosas being more active, more takedowns and more control. However, Turcios had a good submission attempt, but I would still score it 10-9 for Rosas. But points weren't needed. Rosas landed a beautiful knee to the chin, dropping Turcios and immediately took control on the ground. After a few rolls, Rosas locked in rear naked choke and submitted Turcios. He celebrated with his famous line. At just 19 years old, he has competed 4 times in the UFC, winning 3 fights by finishing and earning 4 performance of the night bonuses, totaling 200k. With this financial boost, he secured his family's future and now has approximately another 17 years to focus purely on achieving the highest goals in the sport.